Good morning, my friends. Welcome to the Morning Mindset. It is time, regardless of the time of day, for you to get your mind aligned with the truth of God. I believe God has appointed you to be listening to this right now, whether you're listening the day that it published or you've gone back in the archives and you're listening. It is time for you to align your mind with the truth of God. God is sovereign enough that He has brought you to this point right now. I want to encourage you to stop what you're doing, to set aside whatever's in your mind, and clear your mind to be able to receive what God has to say to you today. Verse number 34 of the book of Romans, chapter 11, is where we're at. And Paul has just laid out for us how unsearchable God's wisdom is and how inscrutable His ways are, which means we can't find fault in them. They are beyond our judgment. And he says, "For who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has been His counselor, or who has given a gift to Him that He might be repaid?" You see, Paul's asking questions that are not really questions. We call them rhetorical questions. He's using the form of a question to lay out an obvious truth. He says, who's been God's counselor? Who's given Him advice? Has anyone? No, none of us can. None of us are qualified to give the God of all creation advice. He is beyond our advice. He is the source of knowledge and wisdom. There's no sense in which He needs anything from us. And in verse 35, when he says, or who has given a gift to Him that He might be repaid? Who of us, though we worship and though we try to, quote unquote, bless the Lord, as the scripture says, we really don't give anything to God that He was lacking. You see, we don't benefit God in any way in that regard. There's nothing we add to His existence or to His being, and especially in a way that He is obligated to repay us. You see, it's kind of like a infant child, if they could, trying to give something to their parents as a thank you. That infant child really is incapable of giving anything that would enrich the parent's life. Although God bakes something into that child that blesses us, doesn't He? Their sweet little smile, their presence, their very essence, and the smell of a baby. Oh, the smell of a baby is an amazing thing. Those are things that actually God is giving to us through the baby. The baby's not doing anything. I'm a little bit far afield here, but where I'm going is this. We are like that baby. We are so small, so unable to really give anything to God that benefits Him. There's no reason in which we should ever think God owes us anything. You see, Paul's point here is that the God that we serve is mighty and majestic, far beyond us, far beyond anything that we know. And it's good for us to understand that, to have our minds wrapped around that concept as we go through the day. Because the things that we face every day threaten to derail us from that mindset. They threaten to get us all worried and get us anxious and get us thinking that the things we're facing are the big deal. When the reality is, our God is the big deal, and we are securely in His hand. We are always immersed in His love. We are never beyond His reach. We cannot step outside His gaze. Do you see Paul's point? When you recognize how big your God is, then all the circumstances of life become small by comparison. Now, I'm not demeaning the significance and the impact of circumstances that come into our lives. I'm trying to elevate our concept of our God. You see, because our God is amazing. He is the definition of power and majesty and greatness. And as we immerse ourselves in Him, as we get our minds wrapped around who He is and what He has brought into our lives by virtue of His Son Jesus, we can live lives that are secure. Go in that knowledge today, my friend.